when it comes to writing, it seems that this is, I would say make your strongest outlet in terms of expressing yourself and, sharing your thoughts to the world and accomplishing your mission in general. How did you how did you develop, I'd say, your interest in writing and your passion to writing? Like, at what point did you realize that this is your thing and, this is the inventory that would help you to do what you want to do, essentially?
Well, I don't know that there was ever like an epiphany.
Hmm.
I'll say I was always a writer. I mean, even from a very young age, my mother has a photograph of me actually standing at my father's desk with a pencil, and she says, "There you are, editing your first book." But I did. I wrote books. I wrote poetry, even when I was very, very young. They're not very good books, but I don't know, maybe for a 6-year-old, they were good books. But and that was just a skill I had. I was very good at that. I was always a good, strong writer. But I did always have this interest also in history and international affairs and political science.
Hmm.
And so I really thought, going into graduate school, that I wanted to go into sort of international journalism of some kind. And intelligence work hadn't actually crossed my mind as something to do, although I was interested in national security. But that opportunity sort of, fell in my lap, and I took it to sort of figure out what I liked. But even there at CIA, I was writing a lot as well. The position that I had very much required very good writing and editing skills. And once I got out, that's it. I mean, it's a skill that I've always had, and it's something that I've always liked.
Hmm.
I journaled a lot when I was a kid. I stopped doing that when I worked at the agency.
Oh,
um,
wow.
there are just a lot of things you don't want to write down.
Hmm.
And I actually found that my creativity was a little bit squashed during my time at the agency.
Hmm.
And so once I got out and was free again to sort of start writing a number of things, I started journaling again, just to sort of get those muscles working again. And that switch back to creativity and sort of fictional writing, that took a little bit of time. But I was lucky too, right? That all coincided with sort of the rise of blogging and being able to have your own platform where you could sort of write whatever types of things you wanted to write. And so it worked out really well then, that the technology then came along to sort of let me explore all of these different ways of writing and looking into the issues that I wanted to look into.
Yeah, that's amazing. What would you say, like, in the past and even at the moment, your biggest influences and inspirations in terms of writing, like favorite authors, books? I would love to hear, like, what you've loved reading when you were younger or now, or whatever the case might be.
It's hard to remember. I have a number of nonfiction books that I think have been really interesting, but they sort of read like thrillers.
Mhm.
Mark Bowden, I think, is one of the best
Mhm.
authors around. His Guests of the Ayatollah is one of my favorite books. And then Stuart Stevens' Malaria Dreams really is one of the top books for me. And it really captures Africa, which I love,
Yes.
and captures a lot of the same absurdities that I was trying to capture when I wrote Victor in the Rubble. And also, it's just very real. I mean, it's very real experiences that, many of us who've traveled in Africa
Mhm.
know and appreciate, and kind of endears us to the place. So yeah, those are two sort of my favorite ones.
That's amazing. Like, unfortunately, I still haven't had the chance to, like, read, your trilogy in its entirety. But it really, from the things that I've read so far, it really gave me a lot of, Joseph Heller and Catch 22 vibes in terms of, presenting the absurdity in different parts in a very hilarious way. And I love that approach because, and I think I read one of your interviews somewhere that, you were stating that, there's obviously the fun and the sad way of bringing awareness to certain problems. And I think it's, it's such a great thing to actually try to assess everything around us in a fun and enjoyable way, rather than always doing it from a sad perspective. So I really love your style and, achieving your mission in an entertaining way. It just makes sense. Yeah, go ahead, sorry.
I think it's much more fun to laugh than to cry.
Yeah.
That's how I cope. So I figure there are others out there who also cope in a similar way.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, it's I certainly think the same. Although I was sort of trained to always look towards, serious literature and associating serious with dramatic, which I think it's sometimes it's a very toxic mental approach and mindset. But hopefully, more people would appreciate that, funny doesn't just mean entertaining, but it can be meaningful as well. So yeah, that's fantastic. And to go back a little bit, since I think, your professional progress, I find it very fascinating in terms of the different things that you've been involved in and that you've went through. And this might be a very, a very big question, but what would you say, retrospectively, are the focal points in your life that were responsible for your development, considering the different things that you've been through and the person that you are today?
Yeah, I think there are a few. I'll start with one that was in high school. I had the great luck to have an excellent national security teacher. He set up a course for a small group of us to study national security and sort of geopolitics, and that was my introduction to it. And he got us each a subscription to the New York Times. And then that year that I was doing that was my senior year of high school, just happened to coincide with the fall of Eastern Europe, of the Warsaw Pact. And so we were studying the fall of the Berlin Wall as it was happening with a great teacher. And at the same time, my parents had actually done an exchange, like a cultural exchange with the state of Colorado and some business people in Russia. And part of the exchange was my parents went to Russia for a certain, I don't know, a few weeks. And then a number of the business people that they had met there then came to Colorado. And we had a dinner with them at our house with the same teacher that I had my national security course with. And it was just an eye-opening experience for me to meet real Russians for the first time, right, in 1989.
Yeah.
And to hear their different stories and to hear their perspectives and to have individuals come out of that rather than sort of great, Russia or Warsaw Pact that I had sort of been reading about and learning about in history books. It really brought the situation much more to life for me. So it was a really great opportunity. And then again, because I had such a great teacher for it, who encouraged me and interested me. And that really, I think, set me on a path to saying, okay, I want to pursue, something. I was 17. I didn't know exactly what, but I want to pursue something in this arena. And that sort of grew then over time. And then I was, very lucky that I had a few great teachers, also professors in college and then into graduate school. And by that point, it was very clear to me that I definitely wanted an international career of some sort.
That's fantastic. And it's very interesting to hear you witnessing such major parts of modern human history from your perspective, considering that I'm coming from a Bulgarian family, and obviously Bulgaria has been very influenced by Russia, especially before '89. So my parents and the nation here has been very one side, we have a very one-sided perspective on what's been happening. So I have always been very interested to know how everything that's been happening in this area of the world has been perceived by people from the opposite side. So that's a very interesting perspective.